Welcome to the channel, it's Chris from L3D, and today I'm going to be showing you how to make a full wrap tumbler using the xTool F2 and the RA3 Rotary. So we're going to be going through the full process of setting it up, setting up the rotary tool, plugging everything together, putting our design, measuring it, leveling it, everything you need to make one of these yourself. If you're interested in learning, stay tuned and we'll get straight to it. I wanted to start off by showing you the different kind of tumblers that exist out there and different style things. So a rotary tool is something that allows you to basically take a cylindrical object, put it in the machine and then rotate it as the laser engraves side to side, and it allows you to achieve a full wrap whilst maintaining a good quality around the whole thing. So you can do it on things like metal cups like I have here. You can also get novelty items like this artillery style coffee flask. Then you have your standard tumblers, which you can get from Temu and AliExpress. These are pop-off stainless steel versions. You also have the slightly bigger versions, which have a screw thread on top. And then there are also the Stanley style with the handles on. I don't have any of those to show you, but ultimately this process is the same for all of those. So let's crack on and I'll show you how to do it. I wanted to start off by showing you exactly what you're going to need for this process. So the RA3, which is the new xTool rotary attachment, comes with a lot more attachments than this, but these are the only parts you're going to need to do this. You're going to need the base plate, you're going to need the main rotary chuck body, you're going to need the main rotary chuck actual housing. Then I personally use these parts here and these studs here. And then it also comes with a leveling spirit level. You'll need that too. And then finally the cable, which plugs into the F2. So all of those come with it, and I'll be showing you how to put them together. You'll also need a tumbler. I'm going to be using one of these. The reason I'm choosing this one is for two reasons. One, because it's not a straight shape, so it gives me the chance to show you how to level it off. And two, these are actually a very common blank that you can get from your standard retailer shops, which allows you to sell and use them. So I thought it would be useful. The next thing you're going to need is I use an isopropyl alcohol. There are other ways of cleaning it, but after we engrave it, we want to clean and get a nice finish. And it goes without saying, in this case, we're using the xTool F2. However, what I will say, this process is applicable for all the F-series machines. So you can take this away even if you don't have that and you do have a different one. Let me show you how to put this together. Now, one thing I really like about the RA3 compared to the RA2 is everything's just modular and easy to do. You don't need to be taking screws in and out all the time. So let's take our main chuck housing here. You'll see on the bottom there are 4 stud holes, or 4 holes, 4 studs, and a retaining screw. So we're going to take that, and then we're going to take our base plate, and you'll see there are matching 4 studs, and these match the footprint. So what we're going to do first is we're going to line those holes up with those studs there, and as you can see, you just line them up and they push straight on so it's flush on all surfaces. Then what you need to do, making sure you've got a full contact, is take the thumb screw and screw it in until you meet resistance and it cannot go anywhere. Then, as you can see, that locks it in place nice and simple. The next part we'll be installing is the actual chuck itself. And you can see this has a nice gold rotary part on it that allows you to increase and decrease the distance between the jaws. So as you can see on here, this is a bayonet style connection. So there are 2 little studs coming out. And if I show you the end here, there are 2 openings where those bayonets can go into. I'll try and get you a good clear vision of this going in. If I move my lighting a bit better. So let's watch those bayonet parts are lined up with that part there. And then you push it in, and assuming you line it up, it locks into place magnetically and it can no longer go anywhere, which is good. So we've got the body built, that's it. It's as simple as that. And that leads us on to the final part, and that is to do with these studs here. So these are all magnetic. You've got studs on their own, but there are other attachments, and I really like these because they allow you to get a nice grip. So I'm going to use these, and the way it works is you just take your studs and you press them into the end lightly, and they'll just connect because they're magnetic. So I'll do that for all of these. And then once you have them in place, it's as simple as just lining them up, and I like to put them on the bottom stud there, lining them up, and they'll lock in because it's all magnetic. And there's a little rail. You can see if I show you there's a rail down the center part of it which basically locks onto this, so it can't go anywhere. Once it magnetically engages, you are pretty much tied down then, which is great. And I'll put the last one in for you guys. And there you can see, that is it. That's our rotary assembled. Look how quick and easy it was. So as I said to you a minute ago, what you can do is, with our golden knurled edged part here, you twist it and it easily decreases and increases the gap between those studs. Is our method for actually securing our tumbler. So we'll do that now. One critical thing we need to do with our tumbler is actually measure it. So there are two types of measurements we can take. One is a perimeter, which is the length all around the perimeter. The other is a diameter, which is basically an end-to-end distance across the central part. So you can take either of those and plug them into xTool Studio. All you need to know, there are two ways to do it. xTool do provide a tape measure, which you can do. So what I will say is, if we're going to be engraving on this part here, we need to measure that part there. So let's wrap our tape around. So here you have, I've measured the tumbler, and if you look at it, if I can get it to focus, it's coming in at approximately 27.3 centimeters perimeter. So we're gonna remember that number because we'll use that in a minute. Obviously there are probably better ways of doing this, or more accurate ways, but this is a way right out the box that you can do it and get a good enough result to move forward. So 27.3 is what our number is. The other thing I would recommend doing is giving the actual surface of it a clean with the IPA spray before you do anything. That way all of your fingerprints and any grease that's gained on it's gone, which allows you to get a cleaner engraving. I'm not going to do that in this case because I have already done it, but I just wanted to recommend it to you guys. So to actually get this attached to this, what you want to do first is just adjust this first so it's approximately the right size. So you can literally slot it on or off easily like that. The next thing we are going to do is locate it over it and push it up against the flat edge of these T-bars. And this is why I like them, because they ultimately allow you to get it a perpendicular mate on it. So push it right up to the edge, and then once you do have it, and you'll see my fingers in the end applying pressure, twist this golden part towards you. And what that will do is it will force the chuck to move outwards and engage with the inner face of that. And as you can see right now, that has actually tightened really well. I could probably lift this whole thing up with it now, as you can see there. And we now have that engaged, and it's very important to make sure that you have contact even all the way around, so that this is sitting perpendicular to that edge like that. So now we've got that, we're gonna move on to the next part, which is leveling this. I showed you the spirit level earlier. This comes with it, and I really like it because it's got rubber caps on the end, which means it sits on top. In particular, these tumblers I have here have a bit of a tapered edge, so they are not flush. So if you try to engrave straight onto it as it is now, if you focused on that part, it means it would be out of focus there. If you focused on that, it would be over focused there. And that can affect the quality of your engraving. So what we need to do is we need to make sure whichever part we're engraving on is actually central. And as you can see at the moment, our bubble is way off to the right, which means we need to tilt our tumbler upwards a bit to get that bubble in the middle like this. So how do we do that? Well, that is part of the RA3 as well. You'll see there's a knob that you can loosen and tighten. We're going to turn it to the left until you get no resistance. And what that then allows us to do is move this up or down. And this is critical for one reason, and that is because what we can do now, if I show you, if we lift it, we can lift it until that bubble sits centrally on there. Then we lock off the knob and we have a level tumbler, which means we can get an even engraving across the full spread. So I'll try and demonstrate it for you now. I'm going to loosen this off, lift it where we want it, and then we're going to tighten it down. And as you can see, that's pretty good. We have our prepared tumbler, we have our F2, so I'm going to show you now how to set that up in that, because this is a little bit fiddly. And what I mean by is, on the F1, you could basically put it on top of that and focus the laser on top of it. I found with the F2 that I don't know if the movement's less on the up and down, but it's hard to focus on the top of these when you sit it on top of that. So what I've started doing, and it works well, is I remove the base plate, and I put the machine on top of this, and I'll show you it in a second, and then I use the base plate to level off the machine at the back, and that seems to work well and allow me to focus on the bit I need and do most tumbler sizes. So I'll show you that part next. So I'm going to tilt the machine back, pop that out, and then carefully, whilst holding it all together, slide this underneath it. And then you're going to see it's got a bit of a pivot on it now. So this is why we're going to use this base plate, and I'll show you. We're going to put it behind the rear of it to actually give it a bit of sturdiness. So here you go. I'm going to lift the rear up a bit, slide that plate underneath it, just so that we can get a nice solid connection between all of it. There you go, that's not going anywhere now. So let's move back around and I'll show you the next step. The next thing we need to do is determine the part of the tumbler we want to engrave on, and we've got to make sure these two dots line up. So using the side of our machine, we are going to turn it clockwise to lift the head up, as you're going to see now, and as we do that, those two dots are going to get closer and closer together. It literally will push it all the way to the top here, so you'll see that as it gets closer. And once those two dots are joined together like that, we now know that machine is focused on top of it. The next thing we need to do is determine where we want the engraving to take place, or where we want the center of this to be. Personally, that looks quite good to me, so I'm going to leave this where it is, but you might want to move it that way or that way if you want to engrave a bit higher or a bit lower. The next thing we need to do is, there are some lines you're going to see here on the actual base of the F2, and we want to line them up with the edge of the actual base plate of the RA3. And what that will do is allow us to have that straight tumbler then, so when it does engrave it, all along it, it's going to be going exactly left to right and keeping it straight. So line those up and then we'll move on to the next bit. We have one thing left to do now, and that is plug in the cable. To be honest, you might want to do this before this stage. That's totally up to you. When you do it at this stage, you just need to make sure you don't nudge anything now, because we have taken care to line it all up. So this connector end will plug in the back of the RA3, and there are two little locating pins. They need to face upwards, so they need to face up. So we're going to put it in that orientation, being really careful not to move anything, and luckily I haven't. Then you've got the proprietary xTool connector that is going to go into the machine. On the side of it, there is this top one here. Plug it into there. It can only go in one way, so don't worry about getting it the wrong way. And there you go. Just make sure your cable's sat somewhere nice. And that is now fully set up in a position we are happy with. Everything there that you can see is now ready for engraving. We're going to move across to xTool Studio now, and I'm going to show you the next step. So now we're in xTool Studio and we are ready to set up our project for our tumbler. So we're going to click on New Project in the top right. And what that will do is open our machine. You'll hear a beep behind me. That tells me it's connected to the xTool F2, and you can see a green dot on there which confirms that. Now, you're probably used to seeing Process on Baseplate as the mode in the top right. This might be the first time you've changed this, but if you click on that, it's going to give you a load of different options of what you can change to. So if you've got a rotary tool, if you've got the slide extension, curved material, in this case, we have installed the rotary chuck, and that is what we're going to be doing. So click on that, and then it will change our workspace to actually look like this. And as you can see, it's very different to what you're used to. There's a green line here, and that is the center of where the camera is going to be. We'll show you that in a second. And then this is the actual length of the tumbler. If you rolled it out from a cylindrical shape to an actual flat shape, that's how it looked. Do you remember earlier, we took a perimeter measurement? So this is where now, on the right side here, we are going to set that up. And the first thing you want to do is click on the drop down. If you've used the perimeter, which we did, select perimeter. If you did the diameter, which is the distance across the flats, select diameter. But we did perimeter. We're now going to input 27.3 into that. That is exactly what we measured. So now we're happy with that. We're going to click on the camera. We've already manually focused. We're not going to do any more here. And if we zoom in here, what you should see is we are pretty much central down the middle of our tumbler. That's going to allow us to position what we need onto there, and then we can put the rest of the design down here, and as it rotates around, in theory, it will engrave it. So I have done some material testing on this tumbler, and what I want to show you is I've done a number of material tests, okay? Material grid array tests. And what these are, I've got a tutorial, so check it out, but I've just basically done a load of different squares with different speed and power ratios. This is the first one I did, and I wasn't too happy with the results. This is the IR laser, and towards the bottom where the speed's 100 and the power's 60, it was getting okay, but it wasn't amazing. So I whacked up the power and slowed down the speed, and it produced some better results. Still not as shiny as I'd like, still not like this up here. So I then went on and did a diode test, the blue diode test, and this actually produced some shinier results, and I quite liked it. So what I ended up doing was a text test, and I'm going to try and show you it. So I did a IR pass at the top, a diode in the middle, and then I combined the diode and the IR. So I did the diode first and then cleaned it up with a fast IR pass, and it produced a really nice shiny finish. So this is what we're going to go with for our design going forward. So now that we know our settings, we are now going to try and do a full wrap on this tumbler. So I have got a pre-selected design and scale it down. And this is just a floral design. You can probably see it. It's quite a fairly complex one. So it's going to come in at this shape. We know the perimeter of our tumbler. I've changed it to 275 there. It is 273. So I'm going to reset that. We know that is it. At the moment, our design here is approximately 115 in, it's saying height, but that's the width of it. So I'm going to change that to 273. And as you can see now, it's too big for our design. So what I want to do is line up the start of the design and the center. So I want to line up the center of it with the actual tumbler, which we've done. And then I want to line up the start with that green line that it's given us. So I'm going to do that. Doesn't have to be exact, but it's good enough. So in this case, what I will do is I will just manually adjust the width of this so that it fits within our engraving window. And I think that's about 110 millimeters we're going to go for. So I'm going to unclick the aspect ratio and change this to 110. And you're going to see it's going to shrink it down in this case because our laser can only travel so far, and that is safely within the travel of it. So I'm going to now adjust it so it starts on the green line, which it does. So it is 273 millimeters long. That matches the perimeter. So in theory, that should join up and produce a wrap. We'll see. I haven't tested it. Hopefully we'll get it right. But if I don't, at least you can learn from my failures. So now that we have our design in there, I'm just going to make it red. It contrasts nicely with the background. So the first thing I want to do now is we are going to be doing a blue diode pass, and then I'm going to personally do an infrared cleanup pass. Those two passes should allow us to have a shiny finish on it, and if they do, then we are in good hands there. So I've updated the picture, by the way. The picture didn't represent the actual location of the tumbler. It is now representing it, and as you can see, it is safely within the confines of the tumbler. We're going to produce two passes here. So the first one is going to be our blue diode pass, and for that I am going to select my material, and you'll probably see now I've actually pre-selected this. I have, after the testing we've just done, I've loaded the settings into my material library so I can quickly show you. So we're going to apply that, and then on the right here you're going to see I've called it blue light first pass. This is after our material testing on our tumbler on this one here, and we are going to be achieving this here. So this is what we're going to be replicating. So our first pass consists of 52% power, 400 speed, 200 lines per centimeter. And like I said, the blue light is our laser. We're going to be doing two passes, but in one process. So we need to copy and paste that design. And you can see it there. I'm going to select a new layer color by right clicking on it. I'll make it green just so it contrasts. And for the green one, it's going to be our infrared pass. So we're going to now select the drop down. I'm going to go to IR pass, and this is called cleanup, I've called it. And for this, it's infrared light, 18% power, 400 speed, and it is going to be 200 lines per centimeter. So you can see there's a big difference in our actual things here. But with those two controlled passes, we should get a nice clean finish. So we're going to make sure our design is exactly over the top of this. So select both designs. First thing I'm going to do is select this drop down here and do align center. I now know that they are both exactly on top of each other, and that is critical. So if we zoom in and move it up and down, you'll see we need to make sure once again, now we've done a bit of an adjustment, just make sure it overlaps that line, and it does. So I am happy with that. Now what we need to do is make sure it processes the layers in the right order. So click on the bottom left down here and you'll see a layer icon. So at the moment, it's going to do green first and then red. That's the wrong order because if you remember, our red layer is our blue light pass. So left click and drag that red layer to the top so that red is on top of green. That is important because we're going to process this by layer. So let's move on to the next step, which is framing it to make sure we are happy with the positioning. Okay, so we're going to click the frame button and see it start moving, and it will give you an idea of the exact area. So this is where you need to check it and make sure it's engraving within the area you want it and that it ends and starts where you want it. So I'll click it and we'll go through it. So So we framed it, I'm happy with it. Now what we're gonna do is we're gonna go onto the process and see how long it takes. The first thing we need to do though is next to the process button, click the down arrow and make sure processing path is set to by layer. That's if you're gonna do 2 passes like I am, have it as by layer. If not, you can leave it on auto planning. But we want it to do our diode laser first, followed by our infrared laser. So that's set. I'm going to click the process button. Okay, so as you can see, it's loaded up and this is 1 hour and 44 minutes long. We are doing a full wrap here and it is basically the full width that the F2 can handle. So, and because we're doing 2 pass, it's taking obviously quite a long time to do it, but you could refine that down. If you're doing more simplistic designs, it doesn't matter. But that's how long it's going to take. And you can look at the processing path. It's doing a bit of a unique path. I'm used to it doing 1 line at a time and just notching around. This looks like it's going to be going back and forth. So I'll be interested to see how this one turns out. We're going to click start and let's get on. Now, one thing I wanted to say before I kick off the engraving is safety first. Because we're going to be using the blue and the IR and this is in a open state, make sure you close your lid as far as you can get it, but make sure it doesn't protrude down far enough to block these. Also, you want extraction because this will produce lots of fine particles. So make sure you have safety glasses on and good ventilation for when you do this. Let's begin. So now that we've finished the wrap, we're going to give it a quick spray with isopropyl alcohol. As I showed you at the start of the video, give it a wipe, just a nice gentle one to take off anything that is remaining. Here is the finished line. You can see our seam line there as it rotates, but look at that, it's barely noticeable. I mean, I'm really impressed with this. Yes, it took 2 hours, and that is a long time, but it's a fairly small machine and it's got a lot of area to cover. And I actually think that has come out so well and it was worth it. So there you have it. We have our complete full wrap. I hope you've enjoyed the process today. I hope you've learned something new. If you have, please write down in the comments and like the video and also subscribe to the channel. If you need help or you want to join a community, check out the Facebook group links below as well. We are a very nice bunch, I promise you. So once again, thank you very much for watching. Have a great day and take it easy.